Hey guys, how are you doing today? I just wanted to do a quick video discussing whether fluoxetine helps autism. I'm not going to make a long one, I may do a better one at some point, but in my personal experience I'll say this. It can help autism if you take it, for me personally, I've found as an autistic person, at doses around 15 milligrams, maybe 10. That range, it's quite good. It helps anxiety, depression, can have mood lifting benefits, and to some degree it works permanently. Despite having a long half-life, do not come off it too quickly. Even if you taper it, you may feel withdrawal, and you may find it flares you up for a while if you ever want to come off it. The final thing I want to say is I think this is probably on average, based off my experience of what I've read, it is the best antidepressant out of the SSRIs to use for someone with autism. It may even sometimes work better if you use low doses. It may even work better than Abilify and Risperidone for challenging behaviour. And it's less likely probably to impair their cognition as well. One caveat I've found with Prozac: don't give them a high dose. I've found even 20 milligrams is a little bit too much. The longer you take 20, it builds up in your system over weeks and sometimes months. So when you don't realise it's too much, it starts to help them. A month or two later, suddenly you find they're a bit wobbly and they seem agitated. It's because the dose is too high. Lower it a bit and you'll probably find it levels out. So I just wanted to say, does Prozac work for autism? I think it can do, and I think more so if you take low doses. Don't take high doses if you can help it, because autistic people are really sensitive to medication, and especially sensitive to a relatively unknown condition called akathisia, which basically, it's not always visible, but it just means they've got this sort of, it's like basically it's partly from blunted dopamine, and it makes them, it just makes them feel uncomfortable all the time, and it can lead to violent behaviour, sometimes suicidal or psychotic-like behaviour. So if you think it's doing that to them, probably an idea to lower the dose and see if that sorts the problem out. Final thing is on cognition. Again, lower doses helps cognition, I believe, sometimes in autistic people. Higher doses, it can make it harder for you to concentrate. It's like the opposite effect, basically makes you more ADHD. If you take lower doses, it doesn't. In fact, it might even help cognition. There's mixed reasons for this. It could be because there's allopregnanolone in it. It could be because of neurogenesis. It could be because of certain doses can cause 5-HT2C antagonism, which I'm sure most of you won't know what that is, but it's something that's unique compared to the other SSRIs in that it can sometimes disinhibit dopamine and norepinephrine in the prefrontal cortex. So that's my personal experience of taking fluoxetine. I had years on 15 milligrams and it seemed alright. It was hard when I was weaned off it, if I remember rightly. It was a rough few months. What it helps, I find, is with stuff like breakups, things like that. It's easier for you to not get as emotional. And even if you do, it's easier to move on. It's possible, particularly with certain people and at certain dosages, although it varies on the dose, it may cause different forms of emotional blunting. But I think if you keep the dose low, it's more likely to blunt negative emotion than positive. If the dose is higher, there's only one other thing, and that might be the really high doses are alright. But it's possible in the long run they still lead to that restless thing I was on about. It might give you a false dawn if you up the dose. It might seem like they're better. You need to give them at least 3 to 6 months, and if they seem to be getting worse, it's probably because the higher dose has finally got in the system properly and it's not suited them. So my personal experience from doing research about this topic is use 10 milligrams, maybe 15, and maybe not even that. And I can guarantee you there's a large proportion of autistic people that will get at least a small benefit. And small can mean a big thing for someone with autism. So if you really think an autistic person is needing a medication, I would recommend they take fluoxetine as a first line, but I would recommend they started around 10 milligrams. I don't think you normally need to up it from there. Maybe up it to 15, but any more than that, and it's liable to, as temple guarding, if you look it up, it can interfere with your sleep. It can just make you feel a bit crap if the dose is too high. And because it's such a long-acting drug, although I find you can get withdrawal symptoms within a day or two stopping it, if you're sensitive to it and you've been taking it for a while. Certainly if you go more than a day or habitually miss them, it will start to fuck you. So if you really think someone needs Prozac with autism, I would thoroughly recommend. There's a sweet spot usually between 5 and 15 milligrams, which is spot on for them. 20 milligrams, you may just get away with it in some of them, but you may find the real benefit is when you turn it down. And I liken it to speakers. If you want music or anything like that to sound really good, you don't always want to turn it up loud because it distorts. Have it medium level volume and you'll find it works brilliantly. So that's my experience with Prozac. I think you also get less side effects off it if you take it in 10 to 15, that range. 20 and sometimes up, you will find it has more side effects if you're anything like me. And I know I'm not the only one with autism to have that reaction. Very common. I've took citalopram, I've took aripiprazole, I've took risperidone, and fluoxetine by far, particularly if you're below 20 milligrams, is by far the best one for me. It's just the best for behaviour, best for depression, best for anxiety, especially depression. It's pretty good for it. It can make some people a bit apathetic, but I sometimes find that kind of cool. Because life, if you're autistic, can be pretty hard, so sometimes it's nice not to get too wound up. It makes you functional, it can make you think clearer sometimes, you get the right dose. And you will sometimes take action and do things that maybe you were too overwhelmed to do. But don't be too worried if it makes you a little bit apathetic. But again, if that's an issue, maybe again turn the dose down a little bit and it might help it. Because I find the higher the dose, the more likely it will block out the nice side of the drug. And it will just make you feel a bit crap. Without realising it, you'll sort of become a ghost of yourself and you might become agitated or miserable. Just lose your good personality traits, whereas if you keep it low, it just takes the edge off everything, and it can almost have... The higher doses, even 20 and up, I find counterproductive. 10, maybe 15 milligrams, you can do it, it's fine, in my experience. I'm not the only one with autism to have said this, it's pretty common. So, yeah, peace.